There ain't no grave. There ain't no grave. Jesus is alive. God is alive. God is alive. A very, very, very warm Easter to everyone out there. For those who are watching, I would like to tell you, this is Pastor Akash, Step in Church, from Step in Church, NAGM family, and I would like to wish you, along with our church, a very, very, very warm Easter. God bless you. Easter Sunday, when they found that the stone was rolled away. Easter Sunday, when the tomb was found empty. Easter Sunday, when the angel announced not to look for Jesus among the dead. Easter Sunday, when Jesus arose from the dead. Shout with me as I ask you to please. Say, Jesus is alive. Say, God is not dead anymore. Just say as if you're sitting in front of me. Mean it. This is your God. This is your Jesus. Nothing should come in between you and your Jesus to celebrate His resurrection. He is alive. God is alive. The grave is empty. The stone is rolled away. This is Easter, and I would like to tell you that Jesus has defeated death. There is no more curse of the sin and death over humanity anymore. The word says, death, where is your sting? Death, where is your power? For it is done, and the evil one has been trampled under the foot of the Most High, who is seated above in the heavens. Hallelujah. The death has no more its power. The sting of the death has no more power in it now. This is our Jesus who lives. This is Easter, my people. There's plenty of reason to shout it out to yourself and tell it to yourself. There are plenty of reasons to tell it to yourself that I need to quit this laziness in me. This is Easter, my friends, and there are plenty of reasons to tell it to yourself that I need to quit being sad about my past. I need to quit pondering over the thoughts of my job that I've already lost. I need to stop worrying in this lockdown situation where my finances are tossing me up. They're throwing me from pillar to post. I need to stop being the Peter who was found nowhere when the women were going where the Jesus was laid. This is Easter. Go find Jesus in the places that you are not expecting Him to be. Because somewhere down in your heart, we still feel and we still think and we still believe that Jesus is still lying there in the dead, among the dead. Touch your heart and tell it to yourself, God is alive. Jesus lives. This is Easter, my friends. I would like to place in front of you 7 events from the life of Jesus. 7 events from the life of Jesus that are extraordinary. Those are supernatural events that cannot be done by a normal human being. Events that could have been done only and only by God alone. And He did it. Let's turn our attentions to Gospel of John, chapter 2, verse 13 onwards. And I would like to read it for you. It says like this. In the temple, He found those who were selling oxen and sheep and pigeons, and the money changers sitting there. So Jesus enters the temple in Jerusalem, and He finds that there are people who are selling oxen and sheep. There are money changers sitting down there with their tables, with their money bags. Further it says that, and making a whip of cords, He drove them all out of the temple with the sheep and the oxen. And He poured out the coins of the money changers and overturned their tables. And He told those who sold the pigeons, take these things away. Take these things away. Do not make my Father's house a house of trade. Do not make my Father's house a house of trade. Listen to me when I tell it to you. These people, they had polluted Father's house. These people, they had turned Father's house, the temple, into a marketplace. These people, they had turned their attention, they had turned their worship from God to money. Clearly, very clearly, we can find it that they have started worshipping money and not God. They have been running behind money. And where is all of this is happening? This is happening inside the temple, inside the Father's house, where people are being discriminated, where people are selling stuff. And what did Jesus do? Jesus chased them away. He drove them away with a whip made of cords. I would like to bring our attention to Exodus chapter 32 verse 14 and also Exodus 20 verse 5. It says that, "For you must not worship any other God, for the Lord your God, I am a jealous God." I am a jealous God. These are the words. These are the words of Yahweh. God Himself is saying that I am a jealous God. Jesus Himself, He got angry and He said, and He drove them away from that place. One man fighting all it together in front of everyone, chasing them away with the whip of cords made out of cords. Hear me when I say that this is a jealous God. Hear me when I say that this jealous God is alive today. That He is not in the grave anymore. He has defeated death. Hallelujah. He has defeated death and He is alive. This is Jesus. This is God. He is no more among the dead. He is not in the grave anymore. He has defeated death and He is alive. Turn with me to Gospel of Mark chapter 4. Gospel of Mark chapter 4 verse 35 onwards. This is the second event that I would like to bring in front of you. If you have your Bibles, please open with me to Gospel of Mark chapter 4 verse 35. It reads like this: "On that day when the evening had come, He said to them," Jesus is telling His disciples, "Let us go across to the other side." And leaving the crowd, they took Him with them in the boat, just as He was. And other boats were with them, and other boats were with Him. And a great windstorm arose, and the waves were breaking into the boat, so that the boat was already filling. But He was in stern, asleep on the cushion. Who? Jesus. He was asleep on the cushion. And they woke Him up and said to Him, "Teacher, do you not care that we are about to be perished? Teacher, don't you care that we are perishing? Teacher, don't you care that we are going to be destroyed? We are going to die." They were scared. And He awoke and rebuked the wind and said to the sea, "Peace, be still." And the wind ceased, and there was a great calm. Wow. Listen to me. This Jesus who commands the nature, this Jesus to whom the winds and the storm also surrender, this Jesus who has control, who has authority, who has power over the physical realms of this earth, this Jesus who could take control of natural forces that we cannot take control of, that a normal human cannot take control of. This Jesus is alive today. He is not dead. He did it in the past. He did it then, and He is able to do it now. It's now again. Tell it to yourself. Tell it to your disappointments. Tell it to your ill finances. Tell it to your own your abuses that you have been dealing with. Tell it to your habits. Tell it to yourself that my Jesus, who could do this back in the past, He is able enough to do it now itself again. And He is able enough to change me. He is able enough to calm the storms within my life. He is able enough to calm the raging questions, the raging doubts, the fears. He is able enough to calm them down. And the good news is, He is alive. He has defeated death. He is not in the grave anymore. The stone was rolled away. The stone is rolled away. He is not in the grave. He is not among the dead. Jesus is alive. He has defeated death. In the Gospel of Mark, chapter 5, verses 1 onwards, we find Jesus' encounter with this man who had an unclean spirit. And the Gospel says that this person, this man who was possessed by unclean spirit, he lived among the tombs, and no one could bind him anymore, not even with a chain. Not even with a chain, for he had often been bound with shackles and chains, but he wrenched the chains apart and he broke the shackles in pieces. No one had the strength to subdue him. No one had the strength to subdue him. Night and day among the tombs and on the mountains, he was always crying and cutting himself with the stones. We see this man who seems to be of such power that no human could take control of him. It's written that he was bound with chains and shackles many a time, but he would just break them off easily. That is because he had the strength of a legion inside him. A legion. You know what is a legion? It's written there only. Let's keep reading. And when he saw Jesus from afar, he ran and fell down before him. And crying out with a loud voice, he said, "What have you to do with me, Jesus, Son of the Most High?" Pay attention. This is the demon. This is the unclean spirit which recognizes Jesus. And speaks to him, "What have you to do with me, Jesus, Son of the Most High God? I request you, by God, do not torment me." For Jesus was saying, "Come out of the man, you unclean spirit." And Jesus asked him, "What is your name?" And the person replies, "My name is Legion, for we are many." It was not just one unclean spirit inside the man, but there were many. And because of the power of many unclean spirits, this person could not be controlled by any human being. This person would throw off the chains and the shackles, tear them apart, break them off. It is written further that, and then this evil spirit begged Jesus earnestly not to send him out of the country. Now there was a great herd of pigs feeding on the hillside, and the unclean spirit begged Jesus, saying, "Send us to the pigs. Let us enter them." And the following words are one of my favorite words. You know what it says? It says, Jesus gave them permission. Jesus gave them permission. This is your God. This is my God. This is Jesus who gives permission. This is my Jesus whose permission these unclean spirits seek. This is the power and authority and sovereignty of Jesus. I think we have taken Jesus too lightly in our lives. I think we have taken him too lightly, that we have forgotten to take permission from Jesus in many things that we have been doing in our lives. Just because we want to be validated by our people around. Just because we want to have an approval of the people around us. And not get anointed and approved and validated by God himself first. Listen to me when I say that this same Jesus to whom the demons bow down, this same Jesus to whom the unclean spirits seek permission, this same Jesus who can bring peace and reinstate your life, this same Jesus who gives grace and mercy to a genuine heart, this same Jesus is alive today. He is no more in the tomb. He is no more among the dead. This Jesus has resurrected from the dead. Hallelujah. He has defeated death and He lives. In the Garden of Gethsemane, we see Jesus calling out to His disciples not to sleep, because Jesus was praying, and when He would come back, He would find His disciples sleeping. So He speaks to them. He says to them, wake up so that you may not fall into temptation. Wake up and pray so that you will not fall into temptation, so that you may not fall into temptation. And it says in Gospel of Matthew, chapter 26, verse 47 onwards. Gospel of Matthew, chapter 26, verse 47 onwards, it says like this. While He was still speaking these things to His disciple, Judas, one of the 12, arrived. With him was a large crowd armed with swords and clubs, sent from the chief priests and the elders of the people. Now the betrayer had arranged a signal with them. The one I kiss is the man. Arrest him. Going at once to Jesus, Judas said, Greetings, Rabbi, and he kissed him. Jesus replied, Do what you came for, friend. Then the man stepped forward, seized Jesus, and arrested him. With that, one of Jesus' companions, this is Peter, the one who is always most high on his vocals, the one who denied Jesus 3 times when Jesus was beaten and mocked in front of his eyes. With that, one of Jesus' companions reached out for his sword, drew it out, and struck the servant of the high priest, cut off his ear. Put your sword back. Put your sword back in its place, said Jesus. For all who draw the sword will die by the sword. Do you think I cannot call on my Father? Do you think I cannot call on my Father? And He will at once put at my disposal more than 12 legions of angels? But how then would the scripture be fulfilled that says it must happen this way? It must happen this way. Listen to me when I say, this Jesus, who holds all power and authority to easily escape a situation like this, this Jesus who could call on an army of angels for His protection, this Jesus who is the creator of heaven and the earth, this Jesus who is the one who is the sovereign one, this Jesus who could have made everything or everyone disappear with a snap of his finger, just like Thanos who did it in the movie Marvel. This Jesus did not do anything, but He did one thing. You know what He did? He surrendered. Jesus obeyed His Father's will. Jesus surrendered to His Father's will and gave Himself up to the Roman soldiers. Just 20 seconds back before Jesus surrendered Himself, Jesus did a magic trick. He picked up the fallen ear of that Roman soldier, scotch taped it, put it back, and he is healed up. This Jesus who just performed a miracle right 20 seconds back, don't you think, Peter, that He could do another trick and just make everyone disappear? Don't you think that this Jesus who just performed a miracle, He could call upon the Father and for His protection? But no, He did not do that. He did not do that. This is the same Jesus who was tempted by the evil one in the wilderness. Don't you think, Peter, That this Jesus could turn stone into food. Don't you think? Don't you believe in this Jesus? This is the same Jesus. But then he surrendered himself because he knew that on the third day Jesus was going to surprise them. Surprise, I'm back. Because he knew that I'm not going to be dead anymore. I'm not going to be dead for long. He knew that he was going to defeat death. And this same Jesus, he is alive today. He is no more in the grave. This Jesus has defeated death. Same Jesus, the one that you worship. Same Jesus in whose name you have come to church today to celebrate Easter. He is alive. Jesus never answered back the wicked people who tried to trick him into blasphemy. He never responded back. He never spoke a word back to them because he himself is the word. We read in Gospel of Luke chapter 22 verse 63 onwards. The men who were guarding Jesus began to mock and beat him. They blindfolded him and demanded, "Prophesy! Who hit you?" And they said many other insulting things to him. At the daybreak, he then is taken to the assembly of council of the elders, where he is asked, "Are you the Son of God?" And Jesus says, "You say that I am." It is you who is saying that. You say that I am. And then Jesus is brought in front of the Pilate. He was surrounded by a huge crowd of religious teachers and the Pharisees, and they all began to tell things against Jesus, saying, "We have found this man leading the people of our nation in a wrong way. He has been telling them not to pay taxes to Caesar. He has been saying he is Christ. He is the king." Pilate heard all of this, and then he asked Jesus, "Are you the king of Jews?" Now remember, before I tell you what did Jesus reply, remember that Jesus is standing all alone. Jesus is standing all alone amidst this huge crowd. There is no one to support him. There is no spokesperson for Jesus in here. He is physically and mentally tired. Physically and mentally drowned because of the beating and the mocking that he has been taking all night long. You know, Jesus knew pain. He experienced this pain that we haven't felt yet. This physical pain, this mental pain is traumatic. Just for a second, let's take a detour, and I would like to explain you the pain Jesus went through. The physical and the mental the physical and the mental pain that he had gone through. He was lashed 40 times and then scourged. There are two different things. Lashing is one thing and being scourged is another thing. It was like a metal whip, and at the end of the whip there was a steel or an iron ball kind of thing which had all hooks and nails on it, and the Roman soldiers would thrash Jesus with that, and with every hit it would take out flesh, raw flesh. With every single hit it would take out flesh. That's the pain Jesus went through. That's the beating Jesus went through. All we know that he was put a crown of thorns, he was lashed, but then these are not just normal Indian people. No, these are Roman soldiers. Guys must be wearing skirts, but they were powerful. They were powerful. Trust me. 6 feet, 7 feet tall, huge arms. Roman soldiers. And that kind of beating Jesus took from them. And after all of that, he is now, when he is standing in front of Pilate, and everyone is trying to blame Jesus, he is standing all alone. And Pilate asks him, "Are you the king of Jews?" And Jesus replied, "What you said is true." Remember the pain he had gone through. Remember that he was all alone. And then again, with all the courage in himself, with all the strength in himself, with all the power and authority in himself, he said, "What you say is true." Listen to me, my friends, when I say that this Jesus who feared no earthly authorities, this Jesus who could not be tricked by the religious teachers, by the Pharisees, by the people who had been reading law for years, and other religious groups. This Jesus who knew the law because he himself is the Word, he is alive today. He is resurrected. He is no more in the grave. He has defeated death. This is the Jesus who can control your life. This is the Jesus who can control the ruling figures in your life, your bosses, your people, those who have been bullying you, people those who have been making fun of you, people those who have been harassing you. This Jesus fears no earthly authorities, and he is with you because he is alive today. He has defeated death. In the Gospel of Matthew, chapter 27, verse 57 onwards, we read like this. When it was evening, there came a rich man from Arimathea named Joseph, who also was a disciple of Jesus. He went to Pilate and asked for the body of Jesus. This means by now Jesus had already been crucified. He had been crucified, he had died, and Joseph comes and he seeks permission from Pilate and he asks for the body of Jesus. Then Pilate ordered it to be given to him. And Joseph took the body and wrapped it in a clean linen cloth and laid it in his own new tomb, which he had cut in the rock. And he rolled a great stone on the entrance of the tomb and went away. Did you pay attention to that? Let me read it back again. And Joseph took the body and wrapped it in a clean linen cloth and laid it, what? Jesus' body. Laid Jesus' body in his own grave. I mean, the grave that was supposed to be Joseph's grave. Not Jesus' grave, but Joseph's grave. Right? He laid him in his own new tomb. New tomb means no one else had gone into that tomb ever before. No one ever had, no other dead bodies had been laid into that tomb ever before. It was a new tomb. It was a clean tomb. He rolled a great stone on the entrance of the tomb and went away. We pay money. We pay money to buy that piece of land for our dead. And we lay their bodies in that 6 feet dug ground. Which means that this piece of land, this particular 6 feet dug hole, this ground, this belongs to this dead person. Are you trying to understand? We pay money for the dead to buy land for the dead. And if we have to reuse that particular land, if we have to reuse and lay some other relative or a friend or anyone, lay a person into the same grave, into the same tomb, into the same ground, we again have to repay for the price. We again have to repay the price, I mean. But Jesus was not supposed to be in the grave for long. His grave was not a bought grave. That grave did not belong to Jesus. And that's why it was an arranged grave. It was an arranged tomb that belonged to someone else. Because it was destined for him not to lay in there for long. It was destined for him not to be there forever and ever now. No. Jesus knew that on the third day I'm going to be back. On the third day I'm going to come out of this very grave. So I don't need to name this grave to me. No. This is Jesus. Listen to me when I say, go and check his grave. He is not there. Go and try to seek for him in that grave. You won't find him there because he is not there. He is alive. He has resurrected. He has defeated death. In the Gospel of John, chapter 20, verse 7, we see that when Simon Peter runs into the grave where Jesus was laid, he finds that the face cloth which was laid on Jesus was not lying with the rest of the linen. No, it was not lying with the rest of the linen, but it had been folded up on its own and kept near the head of the Jesus, where his head was laid, kept at that place. Now this signifies a Jewish tradition that you and I need to learn. This signifies a Jewish tradition which teaches that when the master eats at the table, and if he gets up, folding his cloth, keeping it on the table and leaving the table, the servant who is standing right behind the table, he dare not touch his utensils, he dare not touch his vessels, he dare not touch his cloth. No, because the master says, because this very act says that I'm going to be back. I'm not finished yet. I'm not done yet. I'm going to be back. And this is the same thing that Jesus signifies here. It means the same thing that Jesus is saying here. I am not finished yet. I'm not done with you yet. I'm going to be coming back. I'm going right now, but I'm going to create mansions for you and me. And then I'm going to be coming back. And when I come back, I'm not going to come back again just like, I'm not going to come back like a lamb. No, I'm going to come back like a lion of Judah. I'm going to be coming back to judge the right and the wrong. Listen to me when I tell it to you that this Jesus who is not finished with you yet, this Jesus who is not finished with me yet, this Jesus who has gone to the heavens to create mansions, to create a space, to create a place for us, as he has promised that look, I'm going to go and create space for you so that you may also live where I live. He is going to be coming back. Listen to me when I tell you that this very Jesus, he is alive today. He has been resurrected. He has resurrected from the dead. He is no more in the tomb. He is no more in the grave. Peter, you have seen it. He is not there anymore. You have seen the face cloth has been folded up and kept it there. You see that his face cloth was not lying along with the other linen cloths with which Jesus was wrapped. No. He is alive. He has resurrected. He has defeated death. This Jesus has defeated death. I named this sermon as Defeating Death, Savage Jesus. Let me take you on a trip over these 7 events that we have just gone over. Let me take you on a trip over these 7 events once again. Jesus flipped the tables and ripped off the money bags of those who had turned the temple into a marketplace. That's savage. He used a whip. This Jesus used a whip to chase them away, to drive them away from the temple courts. That's savage. He demonstrated his power and authority over the oceans, over the winds, over the seas, and commanding them, he calmed them down. That's savage. The uncontrolled and powerful unclean spirit, legion, shuddered in front of Jesus. And by Jesus' permission, by the permission of Jesus, they left the man. Isn't that savage? Jesus feared no earthly authorities and gave them straight answers, even in a tiring and drowning physical and mental state. Now that's savage. He left back a message in his empty tomb. Jesus left back a message in his empty tomb, stating that I am not done yet. It is not finished yet. I am not finished with the humanity yet. I am going to be coming back. That's savage. And I see all of these events, all these 7 events, cannot be performed by a normal human. No. This could have been done only and only by the power of God and God alone. And He did it. It was all about Him. It is all about Him. It's not about anyone else. No. It's not about you and me. It's about Jesus. It's about His grace, His power, His authority. It's about Him who did all of these events, all these actions. And He lives today. He is alive. He has defeated death. Hear me out loud and clear when I tell you that I bring this Jesus to you who has resurrected from the dead and is alive today.